Alright, welcome back, Nerd Fighters. It is part 2 of my top 10 best movies of all time. For those of you who came in yesterday, had some probably surprising choices for most of you. But again, these are just my picks. These are just movies that I would, if you haven't seen them, I'd recommend checking them out. You don't have to agree with me. This is my own personal list. And these lists were inspired because TheLisa from the Nerdfighter Ning site, right down there, asked me what my top 10 best and worst were. So I'm going to reply to those in video responses. And here's the second half of my top 10. So if you haven't seen part 1, go ahead and check that out. This is a video response to that. So just click on the link right under here. And let's go ahead and get started. The next on the list is a movie that probably a lot of people haven't heard of. It's called The Big Easy. A movie from the 80s, got Dennis Quaid and Ellen Barkin. There was a very short-lived television series that USA did based on the characters. It was not as well received. And I actually saw the TV series first. I didn't know there was a movie. And again, I have to thank my friend Joe. This is one of the movies that he and I quote constantly. It's a detective story, another police story that involves corruption. I seem to be having a trend. But this one focuses, it's set in New Orleans. If you see it once, you'll remember it. The movie itself is really good. So it's a great love story too, actually. But that's on my list. Next we have I pick a lot of movies that a lot of people haven't heard of. This one is Vanishing Point. I'm talking about the one from the 70s, not the TV movie with Viggo Mortensen, which I haven't actually seen, but I've heard it's a decent remake. Just they change a lot. The basic story is the same, just a guy with nothing to lose on a cross-country chase, pretty much. This movie had a lot of existential elements to it. They didn't really explain everything right out, which is one of the things I really like about it. It tells the story in flashback, and it doesn't give you, it doesn't just like tell you what happened. It just gives you little hints, and you have to kind of figure it out. There's a mystery to it. And that's one of the things that I really like about it. And a great performance by Cleavon Little, who plays a blind DJ called Super Soul, who helps out the main character, Kowalski, through his radio broadcast. And of course, if you've seen Death Proof, the Dodge Charger is the car he's driving. That is the movie they're talking about, Vanishing Point. And there's a reason that Quentin considers it one of his faves too. The reason that he was inspired by that to create Death Proof. It is one of the essential, if you're a car movie fan, if you're a chase fan, if you're just a fan of 70s movies, whatever, it's got to be on your list to see. All right, next up is a comedy classic, and according to John Landis, he'd like it to be categorized in the musicals, and I think he's right about that. And that movie is The Blues Brothers. It is just an awesome movie. There's music throughout. There's both score, musical numbers, and just a general soundtrack. There's music playing on the radio. There's the actual musical dance numbers. There's the live performances by the Blues Brothers. There's music throughout this movie. It should definitely be classified as musical comedy, whatever. Most people just consider it a comedy. But Landis intended for it to be a musical. That was kind of, he put music throughout it, and it is an awesome movie. Another one with some great lines, and it's one that I can watch non-stop. And it's one of those movies that it really is kind of timeless. Like, no matter how many times you've seen it, no matter how old you are, sit down, watch it, you're gonna enjoy it. But yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites. All right, next up is another movie that I have to thank actually Joe and Carolyn for my obsession with. It's one of their favorites, and it's definitely one of mine as well. It's a movie called The Thin Man. It's a detective story based on a book by Dashiell Hammett, same guy who wrote Maltese Falcon. And it is, strangely enough, it's a detective, it was like a murder mystery comedy in a way, because the crux of the movie, and it was actually it was actually a series of movies. There were 6 in total, and it is about the relationship between William Powell as Nick Charles and Myrna Loy playing his wife Nora. And Nora is a wealthy socialite. You know, she's comes from money, and Nick is just, you know, old school cop. You know, he's an old beat cop. He became a detective, brilliant, you know, deductive mind, but, you know, kind of a regular Joe, kind of an average guy. The two of them meet and kind of hit it off, and Nora's family hates Nick, but it doesn't matter because she loves him, and they have this great relationship where they pretend to just, you know, go at each other constantly, but you can tell there's really just this great playful nature to them. And I think William Powell and Myrna Loy have that relationship themselves, which is what makes it come across on screen. And it's a wonderful movie. Just, even if you're not that big a fan of murder mysteries, if you like old movies, check it out, because it's worth seeing. Just the characters make it worth it. Alright, now the last movie I want to talk about is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. It's based on the play by Tom Stoppard, who actually wrote it for the screen and directed it. Has Tim Roth, Gary Oldman, and Richard Dreyfuss. Roth and Oldman play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and you're never sure which one is which because they never really tell you one way or the other. It's kind of up to your interpretation, because if you've read Hamlet or seen one of the many movies that's been made about it, you know the character of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. They are Hamlet's, you know, old college buddies who come in to, you know, figure out what's wrong with him. The king brings them in to deduce what ails him. And what Tom Stoppard does is kind of tell you the rest of their story. Because, you know, in Hamlet there's very few moments where they actually appear. And all you have is maybe 3 or 4 minor moments with them. So what he does is take these two characters that you have a small understanding of and kind of creates the rest of their story. You know, from them first finding out that the king has summoned them, to them, you know, traveling to Denmark, and then once they're there, dealing with the utter insanity going on. And the way Stoppard handles this is these guys, no idea why they're there. They don't know what's going on. Nobody will tell them straight up what's going on. So you have these two characters who are trying to, you know, figure out all the complexities in the play without any kind of information. They're not privy to the conversations that we are. They don't know all the players. They don't know what's going on. They know nothing about the situation. All they know is what they can glean from the rest. And it just becomes this kind of like madcap, crazy little exploration into what's behind the story of Hamlet. And it's just brilliantly done. You got 3 of the greatest actors playing these parts. You got, like I said, Roth and Oldman as Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and then you got Richard Dreyfuss, who is the lead actor of the acting troupe from Hamlet, who this troupe has a couple run-ins with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern throughout the story. And the lead player, which drives his character, seems to know everything. I think he's kind of he is the omniscient one of the entire thing. He knows everything going on, but he's just letting it play out. And they really, in the movie, they really handle playing the difference between stage and screen. There's a great scene where Rosencrantz and Guildenstern start playing a game of questions, which that's, you know, if you've ever, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a game where you have two people and they each ask each other questions, and they can only respond with another question. They can't use a statement, and certain elements like, you know, existential questions out. But the way they set this up for the screen is brilliant, because they have one of the old-fashioned, I guess it's a badminton court or tennis, something from that period that involved a net. I'm guessing badminton, but I'm not entirely sure. But there's a net between them, and they kind of start, you know, lobbing questions back and forth at each other. And whenever it's, you know, the other person's serve, they actually switch places as you would in a normal game. And it just creates this really funny scene that, you know, on the stage, I'm sure it was just the two of them talking back and forth. And I would love to see it on the stage, because I'm sure it's brilliant. But just the movie in itself is genius. And I guess having the playwright himself direct the movie does kind of help with that. But, yeah, so there you go. That is my top 10. Today's 5 were The Big Easy, Vanishing Point, The Blues Brothers, The Thin Man, and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. So I'll put a list in the description of the whole top 10 on this video, in case anybody's wondering, and I'll probably post them in a blog too. But yeah, so that is an ever-changing list, so that is not necessarily my constant top 10, but for where I am right now, that is my top 10. The list is ever-changing, ever-growing, because I'll see new movies, and you know, it's hard to pick. It really is. For somebody who's as obsessed with movies as I am, it is very hard to choose just 10. You know, it's one of those situations where it's like, if you were stranded on a desert island and could only have one movie with you, what would you pick? And to be honest, my head would probably explode, because I couldn't fathom just one movie. Though if I had to pick, I'd probably pick either The Thin Man, The Goonies, or The Blues Brothers. See, I can't even. It's an or situation. I can't just pick the one, because it would depend on the mood I'm in at that exact moment. But yeah, that is my top 10. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to give you my bottom 10, as it were. The 10 worst movies. So I guess I will see you guys tomorrow. And I'm out.
Oh, I'm a hero. I was shot twice in the Tribune.
I read where you were shot 5 times in the tabloids.
It's not true. He didn't come anywhere near my tabloids.